This podcast episode is going to be a bit of a pick my brain episode. I get asked a lot of questions about camel husbandry, sick camel questions and all the like. So I'm going to cover in this episode 3 best practice camel husbandry tips that I can give you from one camel owner to the next, or maybe a wannabe camel owner. My name is Tara and welcome back to the Camel Connection podcast. I am personally excited to be here. Normally Russell is here too, but he's still feeling unwell from his big surgery he had recently, but we'll update you more on that in due course. Today's focus, I really want to talk to you from one camel owner to the next, or like I said in the intro, if you're a wannabe camel owner, today I'm going to help you sort out the 3 best practice camel husbandry tips that you should start doing right away if you're not doing it, or really deeply consider if you're seriously considering having camels in your life. So the first tip I've got for you is as a camel owner or anyone that's remotely interested in learning more about camels or wanting to invite camels into their lives, you've got to be a learner. You've got to be an avid learner. You've got to continually want to learn more information. And honestly, this is the biggest mistake that I see camel owners make. They're expecting other people, other trainers and unspecialized vets to know the information about their camel. You just in this small little world of camels, it really is a self-empowerment thing where you have to know your own camel information. You have to know its personality. You have to know, its health and everything. It's absolutely essential. And I can tell you that out of our 9 camels that we have here, obviously, this podcast is actually recorded on farm, so you'll hear dogs barking, roosters crowing, and probably the geese too. So that's just a forewarning. So continue learning all the time about camels. What do you need to continue learning? You need to keep learning information about any new camel husbandry information. And let me just say that if you think you know camel husbandry information, then you don't, because you've got to continually learn the new things, because science is changing all the time. There is science on camels. There's in our Cameleer Academy, we have Margie Bale as our vet in there, and she consults with us and does talks with our members there, and it's continually changing. So we actually often have to repeat topics because that information is now outdated. So one of the biggest mistakes I feel I made is I read something once. I'm like, well, that's gospel and it's going to be like that forever about this certain camel husbandry information, but it just wasn't. I had to continually learn the new information, and you have to do the research and get the know-how in that. And the same be said for camel training and camel welfare. Some of the information that you might have received 3, 4, 15, 25, 30, 50 years ago on camel training isn't going to be relevant to today. We've got much more stricter animal welfare rules and regulations that we have to follow, and you don't want to be caught out in those situations. As a business ourselves, a camel business, often operating commercially, we definitely had to keep up to date with all that stuff. In saying that, the camel training method that we proudly use, which is the Camel Connection trust-based camel training, has never been a problem of camel welfare. There's never been concerns around that. So always learning. That is your first and utmost tip. And obviously, if you're listening to this podcast or you follow us regularly on any of our channels, then you are a learner. So you're already doing the first step, which is really awesome. So the second best practice camel husbandry tip that I have for you is feed control around camels. What are you feeding your camel? Can you actually name all the things on one list that you're feeding your camel? And also, are you replicating the camel's natural diet, like natural to where they come from out in the desert, as best as you possibly can? If you don't know what their natural diet is, we have to go back to step one and get educated on what that natural diet is, because camels need variety. If you're only feeding 2 or 3 things, that's not enough variety. They've got to have variety and feed changes and switches, and this is how they are designed. And that's just camel. It's the beauty of the camels. They will normally in the natural environment, they will forage for food. They will walk up to 50 kilometres a day, and whilst they're walking, just graze on shrubs and bushes that they pass in the desert areas, which is pretty impressive. So which sort of brings me into my next thing about next best tip, which is about stimulation. And is your camel being stimulated enough? But I do want to cover a few more points in this feed control. Now, I do want to say this straight out. If you're feeding your camels grains, stop doing that. Yes, I said it. Stop feeding your camels grains. Oh, but my camel just loves grains. Of course they do. They are super sweet, and your camel might even crawl over barbed wire just to get to the grains. But you need to stop doing that. There is so many reasons that I can't go into detail on this podcast, but one of those reasons that I can share quickly is that it's just not part of it. Like, grains don't agree with a camel's stomach, not to the point where they're going to get diarrhea and very, very sick, but to the point where they don't create good bacteria in the camel's stomach, because the grain itself, the length of the grain is not long enough for the stomach to do the things that it's supposed to do in order to have a healthy stomach. There's a very, very short story to that. We have a full talk on that in our Camel Academy membership. So if you're in it, obviously you can go back to that. Feed control. Are you replicating the camel's natural desert environment food that they would be eating? And if you don't know what that is, go back to step one and learn all about that. And of course you can do that here, because we cover that a lot. And no grains, absolutely no grains. And if you think it's the cheapest way to feed a camel, then you're really doing your camel a disservice and a disjustice, because it really is not good for them. You're causing bigger problems later on. It's sort of like an avalanche. It's sort of, it builds up and builds up, and then finally things start crumbling. So the third best practice camel husbandry tip that I have for you today is stimulation. Like I said before in the second tip, that camels will, in their natural desert environment, given that it is a desert and they have to forage for food, they will walk up to 50 kilometres a day. There has been tracking of camels in Australia that have done that exact thing, looking for food and water and, food and water, because that's all they really care about. And a really good spot to sit, I might add too. They love sitting up high. Camels love sitting up high. So if you won't find a camel in the desert sitting in a gully normally. But yeah, they just love sitting up high. So they look for good sitting spots, because they're good at sitting, they're good at eating, and obviously, water when it's available. So thinking about a camel's natural habitat, you've got to be asking yourself the question, am I providing enough stimulation for the camel? Time and time again, we see posts and we see questions about camel toys. Oh, how many times we have to say this? Don't give your camels toys. What you need for your camel is stimulation. There is a podcast on why camel toys are dangerous when it comes to camels and introducing toys. You want to avoid that as much as possible. Go ahead and listen to that. You can search for that on our website, Camel Toys, and it will come up, and you can hear all about that for more in-depth stuff. So toys are not stimulation. You need to be thinking, something as simple as, one of their favorite plants, they're not poisonous, and that they love to eat it and that it's good for them. So you might cut a branch of that off, prune a branch off, and hang it up with a piece of string or something, or sorry, not string, more of a rope, because camels will break string. Hang it up high, like in another tree or up in the barn, so the camel can reach for this branch and chew it, and they will eat it, mostly all of it. Sometimes not necessarily the bark and the actual stem, but they will certainly go for the leaves. Obviously this depends on the camel and how bored they are, because they will chew wood when they are bored, and for another few reasons as well. So that's one way to stimulate them. I mean, I think we may have done even a whole episode on camel stimulation in that particular podcast on camel toys, but also just simply, like, camels are curious creatures. You probably know that by now. Super, super curious creatures. So they want to get to know you. If you're around them all the time and you haven't properly connected and bonded with your camel, they are asking for it. And if you think, oh yeah, but my camel, is really shy and snobby, well, they're not. They're just scared. They just don't know what to expect from you. So the only reason they can find out what to expect from you is if you introduce yourself to them and bond and create a really strong bond and connection with them. And they will just be like big dogs. They're extremely loyal, and yeah, they're just amazing in that respect. So obviously bonding and connecting is quite a huge stimulation for the camels. Our camels, they where our house is actually built, it's sort of on a slope, so our camels walk past all our windows every day, just checking. They'll literally look into the windows, just checking if we're in there. So again, loyal like a dog. And some other stimulation obviously is training, absolutely training for stimulation. They love to keep their minds active. This is who they are. And obviously if you're connected and bonded with them, you can train them really quite easily, especially if you join one of our courses. So what have we covered? So we've covered a bit of food stimulation. They love variety. So thinking of, you got to start thinking like a camel, and really think about their desert environment. Watch a few desert videos, with camels in the desert. Just kind of start nutting this stuff out. So you got food stimulation, obviously, no toys. You've got connection and bonding with you as stimulation, and of course you've got the training and handling stimulation. And also, I will add this too, and I know many of you, particularly in the United States, aren't in a position to have another camel just yet, or you're in the makings of having another camel, or savings, I should say. So a one camel family is quite common in the States, and we even know amongst our students in our academy and our camel training course. But providing another animal to be co-housed with the camel is absolutely ideal. That provides stimulation too. And we, first and foremost, we always recommend another camel. And, if you're thinking about getting camels, get camels plural. Get two camels, not one camel. So, if you're in the States and you're thinking about saving for one camel, save for two camels. Honestly, it will be 10 times better for you with the stimulation of the camel being with its own kind, and also easier training. That is another topic for another day. Providing another animal for it to be housed with, something that's going to be safe, obviously, that's safe for the camel not attacking the other animal, and safe, vice versa. So let's just recap on these 3 best practice camel husbandry tips. So 1, always learning new things, and start thinking more like a camel and going to the places for education. You can come to our academy. We've got the camel training school, and obviously our podcast here and our YouTube channel. There's so much information there. Number 2 was feed control. What are you feeding your camel, and is it as best as you can replicating their natural diet? And hashtag no grains. Absolutely no grains. Trust me, you'll thank us for us. When you know better, you do better. And I'm telling you now that no grains is the best information that's available to you right now. And Yet there obviously is a lot more. There's in-depth discussions in our academy with a camel vet talk on why grains are not good for camels. Stimulation. Providing stimulation for the camel, whether that be through feed. We talked about hanging branches and taking them for walks, training, bonding, connecting. Actually, I didn't say stimulation as part of that, but taking them for walks and letting them feed. They love that. Oh my gosh, they love that so much. They appreciate you so much for that. They will love on you. So those are the 3 best practice camel husbandry tips. And, as you know, we're camel owners too. So all this stuff has just been really condensed, and those are the 3 best tips that I can give you right off the bat. Like if I just had 15 minutes to explain my 3 best tips for you, that is it. And then, of course, there's a whole pile of other information that you can learn from that. Also, I have some really good news for you that if you really want to dive into more of how to care and keep camels, then we are actually holding a free webinar called Camels 101 I think it's March 4th, probably the 3rd for you guys in the United States, that side of the world. And we're going to be covering all things camel husbandry. We're going to be sharing with you the routines that we have our camels in to keep them healthy. We're going to be sharing with you scientifically backed camel husbandry information that you just 100% need to know if you're a camel owner or you're considering owning camels. So we really want you to be there. It really is for anyone who is a camel owner or wants to be a camel owner. So it's going to be a great investment of your time. We've got stacks of value to give. And so it's the Camels 101 webinar, and you can go and sign up for that right now over at our website so you save your seat, because we only have very limited seats on this. You can go to camelconnection.com / one word, not forward slash isn't one word. Let me start that again. camelconnection.com / camels 101. The Camels 101 is one word. So camelconnection.com / camels 101, and we will share stacks more of this information with you. We can't wait to see you there and share this info. And it's going to be 100% valuable to you, and you will leave feeling more confident in your abilities to care for camels. And also you won't have to stop. You can stop second guessing yourself and know for sure that you're 100% doing the right thing by the camels. We are here to help you with that. Thanks for tuning into this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one.